reach at this stage. So, and this workshop, and we are, and we take part different organizations. First of all, on behalf of the Minister of Environment, Her Excellency Shukri Haji Ismail, and here also a team, a regional director of Rewild, and focal point for KBA. So, and this organization is for Rewild, and the Rainforest Trust was given support for this workshop, and also with the support of the Minister of Environment. And this workshop, we have been working together for almost 2 months. How we reached this stage, and that the aim of this workshop was how we introduce Somaliland KBA. What's the mean KBA, and the approaches and the systems used by KBA, key biodiversity areas. We have so many very important areas that we need in the future to work. So, and that aspect, we are looking for support. For example, before we are working with the Dalo, we are working with Gaan Libah, we have been working with the Wagar, we have been working with Libahle. These areas are very important areas for key biodiversity areas. These areas is very important for our wildlife, our plant species, our human intervention, where we get support for the nature. We know that our communities are pastoralists, they are agro-pastoralists, they are those who depend on the nature, the benefit they get the nature. So how we conserve together all those important issues, we need to work together for the government side, for civil society organizations, and thanks for international organizations like Rewild and Rainforest, and all those organizations who wanted to support our nature and our communities on those areas. So, and in this workshop, the aim of this workshop is just a few and points to introduce the key biodiversity areas in the region. We need all these stakeholders. We are those who are engaged in this sector, so we need to know exactly what is going on our key biodiversity areas. The other importance is to participate, yeah, with the activities going on in there, and at least find and the way how they are at this moment. The other discussion is how we form a committee who can follow up the ongoing situation of these biodiversity areas. So, and the other important issues are how we know, or how we identify the problems existing. And now we hear a lot of environmental problems existing, which caused by the human or which caused by the nature. The situation is going on and is changing day after day. So in that aspect, and I think we came together for this workshop. We need to come up the way we can work together, and for all actors, the decision makers, the institutions, the civil society, the communities, how we can work together for this and this situation that our KBAs in the region. So thank you very much for those who attended this meeting, and we will start from today how we work together and how we come up a good result for how we survive our environment and how we survive our ecologies. Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to inform you that we are not only those who are here, but there's experts growing up very well. And we say thank you, opportunity that you gave us to
to join us through the virtual. And I will be giving the speech to Minister Shukri, and she will be team team can do. Maybe he will be he having a big session after the opening, and I will be giving a speech to Miss Shukri.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته عادي أربعة بروتين ما يا حق اليد أنا في الحقيقة قش صبته مركا وحن سنة إن وح وناكسر كسر بحين وح ولد سوي دار سنة إلهي بأورد ما حد له لما نقدم ما حد علنا جايتي لك ورتمي كسر قيد شيء بحين ما حد علنا يسدحنا organization يقرأ روتي سوي تحرشية الحمد لله في سياف يو هدو قال لكم هو يا هاي 3-1 إن بعد الميديا داي وقت السنة لا سقطها سوت بسنة أدبان مهدئين ما أنت هلكم وحي مسؤولين وحوين إن بدن بين مسؤولين إن بدن بين كهذا إن بدن بكونفرنس يلا قبتي إن محوك قدوين محوك قدوين كوي هرودن كان محوك قدوين سياشة سين رملين مسؤولين الدنيا دي ممكن يحب يسوي شيء ستي سيدي وحلوقة قبل لها اسبدل كعملة maxaa keenay isbeddelka cimilada ilan wax walba reason weeyaan laakiin maxaa loo helaa solution baa loo helaa reason waxbay u dhacay laakiin solutionkii ayaa dabata la isugu wada tegaya solutionkii baynu imika isugu wada tagnay caalamkii oo dhan adduunyadu imika waxay isugu timid war maxaynu ilaashanaa noolaynu nahay maxaynu ilaashanaa baynu noola nahay maxaynu ilaashanaynaa nooluhu muxuu yahay waxa weeye waxa laaliyo waxa ku nool maanta dunida korkeeda ayaynu noola nidhaahna noole waxaynu nahnaa adduunyada korkeeda waxa ku nooloon wixiina maanta waxbaa ku dhacay aan been ahayn oon yarayn wax weyn baa ku dhacay waxaana waa waxaynu inagu sababnay sababtoo ah wixii ilaahay inoogu talagalay ee quruxda badnaa wuxuu inoogu talagalay inaynu yuusgarayno ama isticmaalno mar haddii loogu talagalay inaynu isticmaalno waxa ilaahay inoogu talagalay wixii aad isticmaasho inaad wax ku celiso oo ilaaliso ayaa ilaahay ugu talagalay laakiin maxaynu inagu ka bini aadam ahaan maxaynu yeelay waynu isticmaalay warshadaynu soo saaray baabuur baynu soo saaray dayaxaynu u baxnay badaynu jiidnay wax kasta waynu qaban wax kasta wixii inoo fududaynay inuu hore ugu marayno waynu soo saaray haddana maxaynu ku celinay wixii aynu isticmaalayna maxaynu ku celinay dhirtii maxaynu ku celinay biyihii maxaynu ku celinay baddii maxaynu ku celinay bandaankii maxaynu ku celinay noolihii kale ee inala qaybsanayay iyagu qudhooda dulmi baa ku dhacay dulmi weyn baa ku dhacay sababta dulmigaasi wuu ugu dhacayna because innagaa yuusgaraynayna wax kastaba haddaba markii imika laysu tegey waxa la yidhi bal meelo aynu cayino waddan kastooba bal waxaad cayintaa meelaha aad isleedahay waxbaa ku badbaadaya bir baa badbaadaysa bannaan baa badbaadaya bad baa badbaadaysa badda iskama badbaadee dee waxbaa ku nool kalluunka maanta badda ku noole hadduu waayo meeluu ku dhalo oo intiiba xaaluf oo maaragta maraakiibta xaalufyo oo shabagu xaalufiyo kalluun baynu helay haddii doogii uu cuni lahaa ee badda ku jiray uu waayo si garaaskii hadduu waayo miyuu helaya wuxuu cuno dhinka xagga sare saaran haddii waayo wax uu cuno miyuu survive garoobi ma noolaanay inagu miyaynu noolaanayna waa maya haddaba adduunyadu waxay isugu timi maanta war systemkaa aynu samaysano dowlad kastaaba bar system ha samaysato halkee la badbaadinaya buur baynu badbaadinaynaa bannaanka intaynu badbaadinaynaa badda intaynu badbaadinaynaa maxaynu badbaadinaynaa ويدك أركي ماتا هلكا maxaynu nidhi waa kii biodiversity areas inaad meel aad tiraahdo kaasaan badbaadinaya maxaa imika bal imika soo qaad meelaha qaarkood oo dee dalkeenu leeyahay meesha imika lagu yidhaahdo geed deebli dee laba waxbaa la badbaadinaya meel dhirtii iyo adduunkii iyo botanical garden in laga sameeyaa la raba meesha labaadna xayawaankii kalaa la keeno fiidii inaynu ku badbaadinaynu doonayno waxaad tegaysaa libaaxi inteedu quruxda badnayd ee maratay inaynu soo celinaynu doonayno waxaad tegaysaa gacan libaax waxaad tegaysaa wagar waxaad tegaysaa sidaa u soco buuraheenna wadaag bannaankeenna eeg markuu ingiriisku muu qaldanayn markuu sameeyey dee rangeska ama markuu sameeyey seerayaasha wax in lagu badbaado xooluhu ku badbaado buu seerayaasha u sameeyey innaguna waxa weeyaan wixii la sameeyey baynu maalin walba isku dilaynaa dad ahaan waan degayaa anigaa leh waan korayaa anigaa leh waan goynayaa anigaa leh baddaan jiirayaa anigaa leh kama shaqaynaysa caalamku wuxuu soo jeestay bal meel maanta aad adigu leedahay ood ku badbaadayso ood badbaadinayso wax hawe haddaad badbaadinayso pollutionkii ka badbaadinayso haddii aad roob doonayso meel dhirtii la helo oo kayna oo dhirta inoo soo jiida meel xayawaankeenu ku badbaado noolaheenu meelaynu inagu ku badbaadin maanta waxaa laydinka doonaya 3 casho somalilandta dib u eegtaan dhagax kasta rogtaan somaliland dhagax kasta inta rogtaan inaad tiraadaan waxaas iyo waxaasaanu anaguna ku darsanay caalamka sistamkaana waanu ku shaqaynayna waana la isku dabagelaya sistamkaana waa la isku dabagelaya waxa la isugu dabagelaya annagu haddii aanu shuruuc soo saarnay dowladana shuruuc la soo saaray sharcigii in la dabaqaa la doonayo sharcigii inaan laga daba iman oo la dabaqaa la doonayo inaynu baranno no maya maya inaynu barannaa laynaga raba haddaad baran weyda maya oo aad sii dayso oo kii qaribay sii dayso oo aanad xanuujin ilaa waxbaad u sheegto sharci baad soo saartay ma shaqaynayo marka anigu waxaan idin leeyahay ha u kala teginay bal 3 cashee adduunyada aynu la jaan qaadnay tanzania imika laynooga yimi oo ninkan inooga yimi waa afrika abdalla doonaya wadan walba inuu wixiisii yidhaahdo adduunyada waxaasaan ku darsaday dhulkaasaan ku darsaday buurtaasaan ku darsaday baddaasaan ku darsaday waxaasaan ku darsaday bal waxay naga soo baxaan yaanaynu intaynu baxsano suuqa iska gelin yaanaynu intaynu is eegno sheeko gelin maskaxdiina tuujiya waa inta halkaa isugu timi waa in cilmi leh oo caqli leh oo qof waliba maanta environmentka soo dhigtay oo soo bartay waxaan isleeyahay hay-adaha un international organizationka localka dowladdu dadkay soo dirtay inoo soo dirtay waa dad maskaxdooda tuujinayo qof kastaaba environmentka meel ka soo galo local organizations maanta iyaguna leadingka la raba inay hadhowto noqdaan kuwa iyagu la haraayo ee wadankan wax ku soo kordhinaya waa inay iyaguna maskaxdooda tuujiyaan waxaan kaga baxaya kolay af soomaaliga anigu waxaan isirahdaa soomaaliga labada ii fududoon dee intaan ku nuxnuuxsanaya dadkeennu baa wuxuu sheegayaa dadkeenna ayaa wuxuu sheegayaa maanta halkaa waxaynu isugu nimid in aynu soo gabagabayno oon adduunyada wax ku darsano baalka adduunyadana ka muuqano buugga adduunyada ka muuqano oo layaa somaliland maanta maxay ku biirtay kii protected areas waxaan ku soo gabagabaynayaa geel fulay gaari maayee hee ha ka daba fulay aynu gaaraynaa adduunyo fushay dee mad gaaraynaa adduunyo fushay laakiin inagu maxaynu nahay geelii ka dambeeyanu waraabsanayno waa ka daba geynaynaa soo maaha si uu u gaaro geer fulay gaari maaya ha ka daba fulay weeye waraadeerayaalow iyo hablaha quruxda badan leh halkaa fadhiya maanta marka aad halkaa 3 casho joogtaan waxay somaliland maanta idinka baahantay inaad halkaa adduunyada waxaan ku darsanayna inaad soo saartaan 3 casho ina aad soo saartaan oo aynu buugga ka muuqano baalka ka muuqano adduunyada hadda u mahadsantiin yes well so English bismillaahi raxmaani raxiim dee kolley waa laynala joogaa marka mar haddii laynala joogana waxoogaa waxa laynaga yar sugaya talo maxay xaajadu ku hadashay marka bal iyaga qudhoodaan waxoogaa aan u sheego oo mahadnaqa ayaan runtii u sheegaya bismillaahi raxmaani raxiim distinguished guests esteemed delegates ladies and gentlemen It is with a great pleasure and honor that I welcome you all to the preliminary workshop titled towards the identification of key biodiversity areas, KBAs, and a KBA system for Somalia. This is the first system in Somalia. This workshop marks a pivotal moment of our collective effort towards biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development in Somaliland. Biodiversity, the integrate web of life that sustains us all. Web baynu ku jiraa. Web baynu ku jiraa. Webkaasina it sustains us all. It sustains us all is facing unprecedented threats in Somalia. The diverse ecosystem within our borders, ranging from the coastal areas as well as forests to the rugged mountains and the vast desert landscapes, are home to a rich array of flora and fauna that are unique to our land. It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to protect and preserve this natural heritage for our future generations. Today's workshop marks a crucial step in our ongoing efforts to identify and conserve key biodiversity areas in Somalia. These areas play a vital role in maintaining the health and resilience of our ecosystem. They provide habitats for countless species, support essential ecological processes, and offer valuable ecosystem services that benefit both wildlife and rural communities. By identifying and designating key biodiversity areas, we can prioritize conservation efforts, can prioritize conservation efforts, allocate resources efficiently and effectively to develop strategies. We have to develop strategies, sound strategies that are tailored to our unique ecological context. This will allow us important projects that are designed for habitat protection, restoration, and sustainable use of natural resources. During the workshop, I urge all participants to engage in an open and constructive dialogue, sharing their experience, knowledge, and innovative ideas that has harnessed the power of collective wisdom and collaboration to establish a robust framework for identifying and managing key biodiversity areas in Somalia. Finally, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all participants who have joined us from the various government offices, UN agencies, INGOs, and local NGOs, universities, and both local and international experts that are attending this workshop virtual. I would like also to thank to Candlelight for their outstanding role in organizing this workshop in full collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change and CCF and REWAL. Furthermore, I'm extremely grateful for REWAL for their unwavering support in turning this workshop into a reality, for their dedicated commitment to this cause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I wish you a productive and successful workshop. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Shukri.
And it's open for us now. The workshop is open. Yes, it's open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He opened officially our workshop, and I will be going to start our normal work. For the benefit of the time, and I would like to see our agenda. If we can do something. Can we do some introduction by individual and institution representing? Sometimes, if you want, you can add a specialty, because the specialty that you have is what we expecting you to give us input. And maybe I would like to start myself, and I go in this way. My name is Abdulghani. I work Candlelight as a NRM specialist, and I will be I will be moderating during this workshop 3 days and facilitating you whatever you want. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gaadhnoo. I'm from Chira Concentration Fund, from Monitoring and Evaluation Department.
And my name is Abdi Hamid Mohammed, and CCF Project Coordinator.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren McNeil. I'm the Somaliland Project Manager for the Cheetah Conservation Fund.
Morning, everyone. My name's Ralph Legg. I'm the Mine Action and Environment Project Manager for the Halo Trust in the Horn of Africa.
Good morning and hello, everyone. My name is Askar, Muhammad Askar. I am from Local Government Institute. I am the project and program coordinator. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. My name is Filsan and I am with Soradi as the co-executive director.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yusuf. I'm representing Soladi. Today, I'm the admin director for Soladi. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yusuf. I am a PVO Environment and Livelihood Coordinator.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Sagan Ahmed, Center Representative for Canada, Somaliland. Somaliland.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. I'm Ahmed Ibrahim Awale. I'm a board member of Candlelight, and at the same time, I'm an environmentalist and an author. I write about Somali environment. Thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Abdikadir Noor. I am from Hala Trust. I'm environment officer on public. Thank you.
Bismillah. I'm Hassan Ali from Candlelight, Specialist Senate Region as regional representative.
My name is Abdul Joale. I'm a Candlelight Environment and Livelihood Coordinator.
Good morning. I'm Faisal Tamagile from Somaliland Biodiversity Foundation. I work with I manage herbarium within the University of Hargeisa.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hassan. I'm biodiversity specialist, PhD, from Ambu University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shafi Hussein Musa from Berber Maritime and Fishery Academy. I'm a senior fishery lecturer and I graduated from Sudan Marine Science and Fishery and a specialist for my master degree, Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Ahmed Ibrahim Al from the Ministry of Director of Range and Forestry Department from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Thank you.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. My name is Ladan Abdullahi Chama. I'm an independent conservation biologist, specifically interested in wildlife and mammals.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Mohammed Heban Awale. I am the Director of International Partnerships and Projects at Ambu University and Head of Research Unit of Agriculture Department.
Hello everyone. My name is Hani and I'm a participant of COP28.
Good morning. I'm called Shamak Abdul Musa. I'm the Director of Planning and Research of NAPFO. I'm also environmentalist and a lecturer based at University of Hargeisa.
Good morning. My name is Yusuf. I'm technical advisor for the Minister of Environment and specialist in food security and livelihoods.
My name is Naab Yusuf from Broad University, especially Faculty of Agriculture and Environmental Science.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amira. At the same time, I'm an environmentalist and a lawyer student.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name is Alan Ahmed. I'm from Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. I'm from Climate Change, Environmental Social Environment.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة
Tourism. I am Deputy Director of Planning Department.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I am Ahmed Yassin Usman from Secure Fisheries, a program of One Earth Future.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Nisha Seisman. I'm from Ministry of Environment and Climate Change.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Rola Musa Ahmed from Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Wildlife Department. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elijah Mulumba. I'm head of programs for Candlelight and I'm an environmentalist. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abdullah Hared. I'm from Saab TV. I'm reporter. I'm producer.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Umar. I'm from Saab TV, which covering a live coverage from this workshop, and we would like to request you to share our page to reach and far for here. Share.
Assalamu alaikum. Magacayga waa Kariima Xasan Cali. Candlelight ka socota. Environmentalist.
Thank you, those who are introducing themselves. And one thing I want to inform you, we are Facebook Live, and you will be having a big audience through the Facebook. And those who they want to speak Somali, you can speak freely, and we will be do our own translation to the others. Feel free. Coming to the session, I would like to over the floor Tim, Dr. Tim. Dr. Tim, he will be giving us before the break time number of sessions, and he will be giving us who is and why he is here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum. Firstly, I should just like to thank the Honourable Minister for her warm welcome and her opening remarks, and of course her leadership in this whole process, which has been essential. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, of which there are many, I just wanted to say a few words before I begin about KBAs, about who I am, why I'm here, and why I believe KBAs are so important, and I think so important for Somaliland. So as Abdikani said, my name is Dr. Tim Davenport. I am the Africa Director for an organization called Rewild. For many years, I've also been the regional focal point for KBAs, key biodiversity areas. The beauty of KBAs, the KBA system, is that it enables countries themselves to take the lead in prioritizing their most important areas. This is my first time in Somaliland. I come here from Tanzania, where I live. Tanzania is currently facing huge struggles with the weather. We've had major floods. In fact, we've had worse weather conditions than I can remember in my 25 years living there. The impact of climate change has never been more powerful. If you are going to hospital, a doctor or a nurse will first look at you and assess your condition, and they'll prioritize you. They will decide how important your condition is before they take you on to treatment. In medical circles, it's called triage. The most important, the most urgent patients are quickly taken on to see the doctor or the surgeon. In many ways, what we're trying to do here is environmental triage. We're trying to prioritize the most important areas for biodiversity conservation because we can't do everything everywhere. So to use the KBA system enables us in every country, according to the same system across the world. So whether this is in Argentina or Burkina Faso or Great Britain or Russia, it is exactly the same system. And it enables us to decide by these international standards which are the most important areas in a country for conservation. I will go on today, this morning, to explain a little bit more detail about what KBAs are and how we operate them. What we're going to try and do over the next couple of days is give you an introduction to KBAs, how you can all be involved, indeed how you all need to be involved, and how we hope that KBAs can help the Republic of Somaliland in moving forward with its conservation. I would just quickly like to acknowledge and thank again the Ministry. I'd like to thank Candlelight for all the work they've done. We've been in discussions for about a year, I think, maybe even more than a year about this. I'd like to thank the Rainforest Trust, who've supported this financially, and I'd like also to acknowledge and thank the Cheetah Conservation Fund for not only their support today and the next few days, but also the great work they're doing across the country. Thank you. I'd probably leave it there for now. I should just say you have all been selected as the most important people in conservation in Somaliland. Your involvement is essential for this to work. So we're very grateful that you have joined us. My role is really just to introduce the whole system. It will then be passed on to you as Somalilanders to take it forward. We hope by the end of the workshop we'll have helped set up an NCG, a National Coordinating Group, which will then be responsible for leading the whole process going forward. Finally, I know Abdikani briefly introduced Idi Rijal. You can see her at the top left up there. She is sitting in Cambridge in UK. She works for the KBA Secretariat, who of course are fundamental in this whole process. He's the Director of Training for key biodiversity areas, and she will be leading most of this workshop over the next couple of days. So welcome, Edie. That is all for my introduction now. I'm probably going to move on to my first presentation. I'll make these as quick as possible, but it's a general overview so you can get an understanding of what we're doing, why we're here, and what we will be learning. And obviously, if anyone has any questions at all during the whole process, please do ask. But for now, thank you very much. I use the same one.
Yeah, you can use that. It's speaking for the station.
Recording in progress.
Can you go over here?
Yeah.
Mohammed will be shared also.
Juggling, is that? Yes. Is it 1.5? Okay. Again, good morning and thank you very much. So this first presentation is a quick overview to KBAs, key biodiversity areas. I will talk briefly about the history of how they came into being, how they operate, and how you, I hope, can all benefit from the system that it includes. Forgive me while I'm trying to juggle various things here. Oops. So each training mechanism for KBAs is divided into modules. Just makes life a little bit easier. But again, as I mentioned before, it is effectively the same system used in every country across the world. So it makes it more straightforward to have modules that can be referred to. So this one really is module 1, and it's the learning objectives. So what we'll just do quickly this morning here is look at the concept of biodiversity. This is something, of course, you all know, and I should just say, bear with me, there will be many things here you already know very well. There might be other aspects which are much more technical. It will be a mix. We have a great range of people here with different experiences. So forgive us if we sometimes say things which are obvious, and at the same time, if we go into too much detail. Hopefully it will all average out. But I'm very aware I'm a room full of professionals, so forgive me if I say things which are too obvious at some time. So we will start by looking at the concept of biodiversity. We will explain what KBAs are and their role in conservation. I'll outline how the KBA standard was developed. As I say, KBA standard refers to the same system being used across the world. And then I'll outline the KBA standard criteria, the thresholds and delineation procedures. Edie will go into much more detail over the coming days about how those work. And we will also be trying some exercises. Biodiversity, we all know what it is. We stick to the convention of biological diversity for our definition. The variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems. This includes within species, between species, and of ecosystems. The one thing I want to just point out here is that there is often a tendency to focus on terrestrial systems. This very much includes marine systems too. So whilst we might be looking at legacy KBAs, and I'll come to that in a little bit, which are terrestrial, we are looking in the future towards any possible marine KBAs as well. So just to make sure that we don't forget the marine environment. Again, I'm going to state some obvious things. Biodiversity is in crisis. We tend to look and focus at the moment on carbon for very good reason. It is the key mechanism behind climate change and all the problems associated with climate change. But it is probably fair to say that the biodiversity crisis is as important, if not more important, than climate change. And collectively, of course, they're all linked. The third, perhaps biggest component is human health. Again, they are all linked. But biodiversity loss continues at an alarming rate. It is, of course, a crisis in its own right. And perhaps most importantly for all of us, it has a major impact on human well-being. for a number of reasons, be it climate change, be it loss of ecosystem services, be it direct impact on the economies. Species extinction risks. I should just add here, I don't know, obviously, how many of you are familiar with IUCN red listing processes, how we reach the decision on whether a species or an ecosystem is classified as threatened, how we decide whether it is critically endangered, vulnerable, or not near threatened, for example. But just to say that the system of KBAs is very much built around the IUCN Red List assessments. So I will be referring to that quite a lot. If you're not familiar with it, we can discuss it in more detail. Hopefully much of it will be obvious, and I'm sure a lot of you know all about it anyway. But this is at the essence of KBAs and key biodiversity area systems. So IUCN Red List, it assesses extinction risk based on three main things. Excuse me. Declining population trends, geographic concentration, i.e. range restriction, endemism, etc., and or small population size. So whether a species is at risk of extinction depends on one or all of these three things. And the way that the red list works is it goes through a standard again to decide whether a species is vulnerable to extinction, is endangered, or is critically endangered. Going back to ecosystems, we've changed ecosystems. We haven't destroyed them, and they're not necessarily disappearing. We just transform them. Unfortunately, we transform them in such an integral way that they no longer function in the way that they naturally evolved. So ecosystem collapse is characteristic. Native species and other defining features are lost, or species that perform key ecological roles that are no longer able to maintain these functions. So we can look at an area, a site, or a species in a number of different ways. We can look at the individual species at their risk. We can look also at ecosystem. There is also an IUCN Red List of ecosystems, and it defines ecosystems most at risk of collapse based on, again, geographic distribution, changes in distribution, environmental degradation, and disruption of biotic processes or interactions. Similar sort of system to the species, collapsed, critically endangered, etc. So how do we address the biodiversity crisis? There's an urgent need for it. We all recognize that. It not only impacts our environment, it in fact impacts us and our economies and our national systems. Safeguarding habitat is probably the most important and most effective conservation strategy available. In conservation, we can target species because we're, as humans, emotional much more than we are rational. We tend to focus on species because we can identify with a species. And if I'm honest with you, conservation organizations use species as a means to raise money, raise awareness, instill political movement. But ultimately, we're talking about the conservation of habitats, of ecosystems, of sites. And it depends on knowing which areas in the world contribute significantly to the global persistence. I was mentioning at the beginning, triage. We cannot, even if we want to, conserve everything everywhere all at the same time. We have to prioritize. It's a shame, but that is life. There's only so much money, effort, time, people that can go into conservation, even if it's the most important concern of our times. We're in the prioritization business. I won't go into these in too much detail, but I'm just setting the scene for KBAs and how they fit into international priority setting, international policy making. The Aichi targets have now gone past and finished, but we're also looking at aspects of the CBD and Target 3. Yes, sorry, both for the Global Biodiversity Forum and for HE. HE targets have passed, but GBF continues. The KBAs fit within these international policies, and that's probably why this is so important. As time goes on, as the KBA system unfolds and develops internationally, major international donors and others are starting to fund and support only areas which have been identified as KBAs. You can question whether that's right or wrong, but that is the case. If you're an international donor, if you're a bilateral, if you're a foundation, you cannot fund everything. You make a choice, just in the same way we do in terms of triage. They are deciding what to support. They are increasingly only using KBAs to fund them because they're already internationally recognized. I should just quickly add, and I'll come on to it in a second, there are many NGOs, international NGOs, local NGOs, operating around the world in conservation. Perhaps there's a relatively small number of big ones. For reasons which we can talk about, but I won't necessarily touch on now, there is often a lot of competition, regrettable competition between them. They often have decided on their own ways to prioritize. That might be global hotspots, that might be eco-region areas, it might be landscape species. There's a whole array of systems employed by international NGOs to prioritize what they would like to do. The KBA system is deliberately different. It is not a system associated with one international NGO or another. It is international, and that again is its great strength. So again, it fits into both HE targets and Target 3. As I was saying, there are many different approaches to prioritizing conservation areas or prioritizing most important areas for conservation. It is not appropriate or right at this stage to comment necessarily on these various different systems. They all have value. Perhaps they all have weaknesses. Again, what we're trying to do here is cut across all of the NGOs so that the KBA system is at an international standard and is ultimately driven by each individual country. And that is key. Whilst a donor or an NGO might and hopefully will support these KBAs, particularly in the future, well, starting with the delineation and identification, but also with their conservation, ultimately, it is up to the country, whichever nation state is involved, to lead the way. It is a nationally driven process. And again, that is the great strength. I'll just touch quickly on BirdLife because that is an important international NGO which had a big and important influence on prioritizing areas globally. 20 years ago, perhaps a bit more, they came up with IBAs, important bird areas. Birds are perhaps the most popular and most studied group of animals. There are a lot of people who know their birds very well, who study them, and who put money into their conservation. BirdLife came up with this great idea 25, 30 years ago of looking country by country and deciding which are the most important areas in a country based on bird life, the bird population. And that was great. But with time, And when other systems came in, looking at important plant areas, important butterfly areas, important primate areas, started to get a bit confusing, particularly for the decision makers in each country. What do I do? Do I go for the important bird areas? Do I go for the important butterfly areas? Do I focus only on the plant areas? So this KBA process came out of the recognition that there are many individual things, but it can be a confusing situation unless there is some harmony. So going back to 20 years, in fact, the WCC in Bangkok, members of the IUCN, of course, being a union of conservation organizations, recognized this fundamental problem and started the process of trying to deal with it. How do we sort this out? How do we focus? How do we enable a country to target areas based on all of their biodiversity, not just one individual group of animals or plants? And this is the process that was gone through. It was pretty thorough. Starting from that first recognition, engaging the stakeholders and technical papers and workshops, all the usual stuff. It went on for 10 years or more to ensure as much as possible that as many different people that could be involved were involved, that ideas from across the world were brought in, that as many technical and academic institutions and individuals were involved in order to get to a place where we reached a KBA standard. As I say, it went through various iterations, and finally, I think about just under 10 years ago, the KBA standard was realized. And that is something that's available online. And what we will be rounding this workshop on. Oops. And what this tries to do for the first time is empower the conservation community globally around one common approach. Not one approach driven by this NGO or that NGO, not one approach driven by birds or plants or frogs, but a unifying approach, common approach that everyone can employ and use, whether you're in, as I say, Brazil or Somaliland. So KBAs, key biodiversity areas, provide an umbrella framework, the aim being to harmonize all of the existing approaches. This was eventually adopted by IUCN at the WCC in 2016, and a KBA partnership was formed. Need to be a bit careful here. If you see at the bottom of the schedule, the agenda, you'll see a whole list of NGOs. I've just been talking about the fact that we wanted to get away from one NGO or another, but then here I am talking about a whole partnership of NGOs. I recognize that is a little bit of a dichotomy, a bit of a conflict. This group here is there only to support the KBAs and the KBA Secretariat, which is based in the UK. They are not there to decide how things operate. They are merely there to support. So I just wanted to make that distinction. It is fairly important. But the KBA partnership, which oversees and supports the KBA Secretariat, which IDI works for and with in Cambridge, ultimately is how the whole KBA system operates. So the global standard, it's science-based. There are many reasons, perhaps even more so in the world today, that we focus on science. Again, human beings are a strange bunch. We are very emotional and much less rational. Using science enables us to make decisions that are rational, that are perhaps non-political, and that can be supported by empirical information. So it is unapologetically a science-based system. And this is set up, and the definitions and the criteria and all the science behind it is deliberately set up so that the system is objective, is repeatable, whether again you're in Argentina or on Somaliland, and is most importantly perhaps transparent. Every single component of this is transparent. You can go back and check how it happens, where it is. There are databases, there is supporting documents to show how this works and why and where it works. So KBAs are ultimately known as sites contributing significantly to the global persistence of biodiversity. Deliberately a very simple definition. And KBAs are identified using criteria designed to capture elements of biodiversity across genetic, species, and ecosystem levels. In conservation, we often refer only to species as our unit, our currency, if you will. Species, species, species. Of course, it's a very good way to do conservation. But there's genetic diversity as well. There's ecosystem diversity as well. KBAs tries to envelop all three of those. And again, just something I mentioned at the beginning. Often there's a focus on terrestrial, understandable, but we're also talking about freshwater ecosystems, estuaries, coastal services, but also marine. Again, Somaliland has an important coastline. Maybe there are KBAs out at sea. The fundamental part of KBAs is that they are delineated areas, meaning you can't have the entire country as a KBA. You can't have the Horn of Africa as a KBA. Fundamentally, it has to be an area that is delineated, has a boundary that is defined by how that area is or can be managed. It's a management tool. Again, this goes back to how conservation operates and how it's supported and funded. It needs to be supported by a national government. It needs to be funded by whoever can. It needs to fundamentally enrich the lives of people around it, as well as the greater global conservation community. So there is a definition. It's a geographical area on land and or in water with defined boundaries that are actually or potentially manageable as a single unit, i.e. a protected area, but not necessarily, or another managed conservation unit. We'll probably touch on this again more tomorrow or the day after, but this definition is really important. It doesn't restrict it to protected areas. It could be that the garden of this hotel, for example, is a KBA. It is managed as one unit if there are the right species or ecosystems represented here. It's unlikely that is the case, but just to say, it can be a park, it can be a garden. It just needs to be a single managed unit. So one of the aspects of KBAs is that they're based around area demanding species. Most globally threatened species depend on specific sites for some or part of their life cycle. Again, we have to be aware there are plants which never move. There are some birds which will travel thousands and thousands of kilometers every year. We have to try and encapsulate all aspects of life on Earth. Most area demanding species require a combination of conservation action at the site or landscape scale. And of course, the number of species do not regularly or predictably occur at any sites in significant numbers. Says the battery's running low. Excuse me. Okay, we're not going to find too many of these in Somaliland, but again, it's just demonstrating a point. Climate change is, of course, extremely important. And again, it's so good that the minister is here because, of course, she represents not only the environment, but climate change too. So KBAs are identified based on the current distribution of biodiversity. Sites that currently meet criteria are recognized as KBAs, even if they're threatened by climate change. So that's important. We know that climate change is having a major impact. Where I live in Arusha in northern Tanzania. We now have elephants walking into town, literally. They never used to, but climate change is forcing wildlife, particularly dangerous wildlife like elephants, to start behaving in very strange ways. It becomes a major problem, especially when the global north says we must protect elephants, and people in Arusha town are saying, are you serious? They're walking into town. There are all sorts of impacts that climate change is having. This does not impact on whether a site is a KBA or not. And again, just to reinforce that, sites that do not currently meet the criteria cannot be identified as KBAs, even if we predict they might in the future. We have to come back to that. Excuse me, sorry. No. Okay. So again, KBAs are often already reasonably well conserved. Maybe often is perhaps too strong. They can be well conserved or they can be not. Where additional management is required to secure the persistence of biodiversity at site, there are many management options available. And again, we'll come to that. This is the first part of a process which ultimately will lead, we hope, to the management, wise use, conservation of Somaliland's most important sites.
Very well.
I don't know what that was. So basically, KBAs provide a bridge between assessment, planning, and action. We use science to assess and plan, and then we hope that this leads on to action. And the KBA Secretariat and all the organizations and donors that support them are interested not only in identifying these sites, but then in their conservation further down the line. There's something called the WDKBA, which is the World Database on Key Biodiversity Areas. It is a work in process, but this is where all the information for all the KBAs is stored, is housed. It is available for people to use. Again, I think Edie will probably talk about this in a bit more detail. But KBA data are being used in different ways to influence conservation policy and particularly sustainable development goals. Again, these are just general things. I won't go into these in too much detail, but just demonstrating how the process is evolving. This is just an example, something we were involved in a few years ago in Mozambique, where the Mozambican government recognized the need for a KBA system, much like the process here. It went through a bunch of stages, an initial workshop like this, and then out to the regions, and then scientists and surveys and analyses until ultimately an entire KBA system for Mozambique was delineated. As you see, some major areas all up and down Mozambique and some marine areas too. That was a success. It is now being used not only to prioritize conservation across Mozambique, but to guide donors in where they should and shouldn't perhaps not be putting their money. They are incorporated into the national plan, and that is really important. Again, going back to this, it is a tool for nations to use. It's a tool for them to demonstrate sustainable development goals. It's a tool for governments to demonstrate to the international community that they are doing conservation, that they are serious about conservation, and that they are doing whatever they can. They could also be funded as offsets. That's, again, a small detail, something we can talk about, but it is an interesting concept. As I say, things like the GEF and GPF, CPF, and increasingly the IMF, the World Bank, multinational, bilateral donors, etc., US government, German government, the EU, are now only funding KBAs. So it is, again, a great incentive for a country to identify its KBAs officially. Again, we'll talk about this in a bit, but there is an important component of the private sector here too. This is not just a non-profit sector. There are elements of this which are important for the private sector, both in terms of where they can carry out development projects, but equally where they perhaps should not. International financing agencies, for example, and this does work very well, I know from having been in the position of regional focal point, go through a process of not wanting to impact negatively on KBAs. So they do call people like me up and say, is it okay to do stuff here or is it not? So the more information that is on the database that is internationally recognized, the more powerful it is, not just to say no to development, but to say yes, but here, not here, for example. And again, this can go right back to the early stages so that people are not disappointed further down the line. This is well, it was.
Someone online enter the link. Go and go.
Okay, this is just another example of somewhere near to where I live, but actually has a very topical end point. Lake Natron, an extraordinary site in northern Tanzania, not too far from Serengeti. It's the most important site for lesser flamingo breeding. In 2006, a soda ash factory was proposed at the site. Soda ash is used for cement and all sorts of various chemicals. Whilst, of course, there are benefits to that, there are also legitimate environmental concerns. So a platform of NGOs began a campaign to discuss this. And in 2008, the company, Taita, withdrew from the project. The project was revived again by the Tanzanian government in 2011, but they couldn't get investors to invest because of the concerns. And in 2018, the government announced its withdrawal. This was all done very cordially. This wasn't an aggressive campaign of negative, positive. It was simply explaining the science, the situation, the outputs. The reason I say it's topical is that this has just come up again. They are now freshly looking at setting up this soda ash factory in Tanzania once again. Now, however, it is a KBA. It is also something called an AZE, and we'll get to AZEs, areas of zero extinction. The AZEs are the top level KBAs. They are where a KBA has the entire population of a species, for example. So if a species exists only in one site in the world, it will be a KBA, but it will also be an AZE. And AZEs, you are not allowed internationally to develop negatively in AZEs. we will see how this transpires. This is something that is ongoing. We'll leave. There's another example of Okavango where we Rewild are quite heavily involved, but let's move on. So those are just some examples. That's an overview. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to open the floor in case anyone has any questions, and take a small break before I do the next talk. And then after that, you'll have heard enough of me. But for now, thank you very much. And if you have any questions on some of the stuff I've been talking about, please fire away. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for the great explanation and the great presentation.
Mike, this is wasted. Mike.
Sorry. waxaad arkaysaan halkan presentation baa lainoogu soo jeediyey wayaabantiin waxaad leedihiin ministerku maanta meesha maxaa dhigay waa wixii dhammaan lai diray weeye waxaan maanta laga hadlaya wasaaraddiina maanta good presentation baa ka jooga in badan baa jooga they represented really very well kan waxaa lainoogu soo bandhigay dee adduunyadii kale imka siday ula jaan qaaday hawshan iyo si halkay kasoo bilaabantay iyo waxa dadka ku kalifay innaga qudheen maynu liidan markii meelo badan la cayimay waxaa la cayimay dhowr iyo konton meelood 51 meelood oo isugu jira buurihii iyo isugu jira banaankiiba in maaragtay ka wasaarad ahaan ay ilaaliyaan qaar gacantaa lagula jiraa ka wasaarad ahaan oo ilaa 8 waanu ka shaqaynaa inta kalena continuous monitoring baa lagu sameeyay yaa ku soo durkaya dhex degaya shalay oo kaliya waxa la isku haystay hadan iyo gobolka hawl banka gobolka hawdo shalayto la yiri banka dhexdiisa gabadh baa tiri aabahay baa ku dhashay yaa awoogi markaa iibisay bankii hadda waa intii dhexdiisii awoogi ayaa ku dhashay intii iyana qaar kale ka sii iibsay laakiin iibsaday iyadii waa raadinay labadiiba imika waan ku daba jiraa markaa taas oo miran baa dhacaysa laakiin maanta halkan waxaynu weeyaan lala yaabay ka wasaarad ahaan laba wax baan xusayaaye flying theater flying theater ayaa laga keenay South Africa hal jiita ah laba meelood ka jabay wixii lagu daweynayay wixii lagu qalayay wixii oo dhan baa laga keenay South Africa iyo labadii dhakhtarba waanu u sheegnay qoladan airport ko flying theater baa imanaya halkaas oo dhan dadkaas sida waa laga jabay jiito laba meelood ka jabay waa la wadaago waxa la wasaaradda labada jiitaha jabay labada meelood ka jabay ka hadlaysa wadankana wuu leeyahay theater aysan oo markaa taasi ilaa madaxweyne bay gaartay haddana waxay noqday haad duulaya oo yaro 8 bilood jiray ayaa wuxuu galay wayradeena maartay leerka uu soo dhacay uu isaga qudhiisba garab ka jabay waan soo qaadnay waxa la evacuate gareeyay evacuation loo sameeyay xagee la geeyay Djibouti in lagu soo kabo Djibouti evacuation kiba time naga qaatay intii aanu ordaynay intii Djibouti intayadii by the time saa Djibouti loo geeyayna waxay noqotay anigu dadaali intii aan dadaali karin taasina waxay nafaraysaa waajibaadkayga marka maanta waajibaadkiina halkaa u fadhiyaa waxa weeye waxa la intiina halkaa fadhiyaa waa intii khasfiinaysa injineeradii ahaa internationalkii UNT localkii innagii waxay naga maqan private I don't know in private sectorkii cidii nagala joogo private sectorkuna waa kuwa ugu daran private sectorkuna waaba kuwa ugu daran iyana eegayba iyagu development bay ka hadlayaan 24 hours development innaguna waxaynu nahay dadkii developmentka ku ilaalinaya shalay waxaan idhi maalin walba maxkamad baan taaganay wasaaradda maalin walba dagaal baan ku jira maalin aanan cid is haysanina ma jirto taasina guul bay noo tahay markaad cid is qabsataan waxbaad hagaajinaysa markaad cid is qabsataan anigoo cabanayo le maalin walba cid baan is haysanaa baan maqlay dowladdu way inoo le maalin walba waxbaan is qabsanay dad baan is haysanaa dowladii waaweynaa marka halkaa maanta halkaa inta halkaa maanta ku dhigateen ama ka soo baxday waa waxaynu markii horeba laakiin imika waxaynu ka sayb galay intiinaasina waxa odhanaysaan waxaanu ahayn dadkii aasaasay kaaba loo qofo meel wax ka soo gala miyaanay ahayn waxaan ku jiray workshopkii lagu aasaasay kaaba dhulka lagu cayimayay in allaaliya intii aynu isleenahay waynu konseer garayn karaynaa dhulkii aynu doonaynaynu cayino iyo kuwii noo caymaasaynu u hagaajinaynaba kuwii dadkii kasoo qayb galay baa tihin ee aasaasay wax wanaagsan haddaba haynaga soo baxaan dhulkeennana saa u eega maabka saara diiradda saara koono kasta saara intii aynu haysanay horena aynu wax ku kordhino anu waxaan qabaa intii horeynu haysanay inaynu wax ku kordhinaan qaba oo aynu soo xidhna qaar kale madaxweynuhu dikrado kusoo saaro in kalena la xidho halayna qabto waynu kala laalaadayna development ma diidanin laakiin developmentkina dee waa inuu leeyahay shuruucdiisa iyo habkiisa waa inuu leeyahay waa mahadsantihi
Thank you, Mr. Shukri. And she's emphasized how she's wanted to be our local farmer and how is important for us. Against time, we will be going to break because we have another session with the team, and I think this session will be taking longer. So, for the sake of time, we will be going break, and then we will be after we come back the break, we will be continuing session for um, from now on. It's 10:22, 25, 22. Can we take around 30 minutes break? 50, 20 minutes from now on. Okay. Thank you.